Hello students, Jai Guru. Welcome to this fourth audio lecture on Alexander Pope's The Rape of the Lock. Moving on, though Pope criticizes the fashionable 18th century, he dilutes the sharp edges of satire with his genial tone. He might be suggestive, he might be directive and aggressive too at times, but never in his aggression does he loses his hold on humor, ridicule and wit. And that is why essentially from all the lines of The Rape of the Lock we can derive that wit, that humor, which makes it not only a very pleasant read but also an exceptionally beautifully read. There is a very little which is romantic in Pope's essential intention behind writing The Rape of the Lock. Like other satirists of his time, his fundamental interest was to expose the follies and limitations of man and society. This satiric purpose reveals mainly his critical temper. However, in the poem, his presentation of affluent and fashionable world of bells and bows is constantly touched with the fanciful aspect of his mind. In many of his descriptions of practices and rituals of 18th century sophisticated society, Pope expresses his romantic trend of mind. And for this reason, the poem never becomes a scathing criticism, but rather a sympathetic one. The essential romantic aspect of Pope's mind is expressed in the poem in his use of his fancy, which transforms a real-life incident into a mock heroic epic. Right from the title of the mock epic itself, he juxtaposes the trivial with the somber. The Rape of the Lock, the two operative words in the title, the rape as well as the lock, are juxtaposed within the span of a few words in order to trivialize and also exalt in the same manner as the insignificant. It's also a part of Pope's brilliance and genuinity that he applies all the features of an epic, though in an inverted manner, to a real-life incident, metamorphosing into a poetic experience of lasting appeal. He compares the heroine to an epic hero, her elaborate dressing rituals to an army of warriors, her journey down the river Thames to the epic journey, the card game of Omber at Hampton Court to the epic battle, the tea ritual to the epic feast, and the loss of her lock of hair to the epic disaster. Not only once does he miss the mark, but he missed the point. So, every important incident throughout the 5 cantos in The Rape of the Lock has some epic incident or the other to complement it with the mock epic. The romantic bent of Pope's mind has also been expressed in different forms of exaggerations. Such a fanciful exaggeration is the description of Belinda's dressing table and her ritual. Without any doubt, Pope desires to satirize Belinda's obsession with beauty, yet these descriptions are so exaggerated that they provide us with a magnificent insight into the world of Belinda's cosmetic powers. Belinda sits at her dressing table as the goddess of pride. Her maid Betty is put in charge to further exalt and intensify her beauty. She selects from each of her articles objects of adornment and with great care and skill adorns the goddess with cosmetic powers. We usually talk about cosmetic powers here at this place because it is an essential equipment with which Belinda equates her self-beauty with charm, essentially her cosmetics. So instead of cosmic powers, obviously uh, obviously has a very divine spiritual connotation in association with it. Pope uses cosmetic powers. So again, the juxtaposition here is very prominent. And also the divisions, there are some important subsections to which this specific canto has been divided. Canto 1, which I have already mentioned in the first slide. So there are subdivisions of canto 1, the subsections to which this specific poem can be divided. Thank you.